Greenhouse gas emissions are at record levels and growing. The commitment to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees is nearly going up in smoke. Without further action, we are headed to a 2.8 degree increase, and the consequences, as we all know, would be devastating. Several parts of our planet would be uninhabitable, and for many, it will mean a death sentence.
Joining us now, we have Svein Tveitdal, who's in Arendal in Norway. He's the director of consultancy Klima 2020 and a former director of the United Nations Environment Program. Svein, good to have you. All right, so Antonio Guterres is one of the few on the planet to always bluntly call out governments, companies, humanity for not doing enough and essentially sowing the seeds of its own destruction. Do you think naming and shaming does a lot of good?
Well, I think he is in his full rights, and the reason is that in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, we need to halve the emission in 7-8 years up to 2030. And if you take the major oil companies, their plans is to increase their production. So Secretary General also said in his speech that their plans is inconsistent with human survival. So it's a very, very serious situation, and it is very good that Secretary General is reminding us on this, and is only echoing what the UN's own scientists is saying. And there is a consensus that we are going in a wrong direction very fast. So he is in his full rights, actually.
Yeah, this is not the first time either that oil companies, especially ExxonMobil, have been called out for covering up their own knowledge about how their activities contribute to global heating.
Yeah, there is of course a lot of evidence on this, that even back in I think in the 1970s, 80s, they knew that because they had extremely good scientists. They said that if we go ahead with our plans, the temperature on the Earth will increase, and they didn't tell the public about this because of course that would harm the profit, and that is the situation we are in now. So there is no other way than that we have to limit the plans of the big oil companies if we are going to avoid not a climate crisis but a climate catastrophe, as 2.8 centigrades, as Secretary General said in his speech, is coming up if we don't do more than we do today.
Yeah, I mean, because money is involved, of course, humanity is never doing enough to lower the pace that the Earth is warming. However, would you say that every time there's been a big gathering on this subject, there is action taking that is pretty surprising, that there are firsts that come out of these conferences and a real commitment to switching to renewable energy?
Well, I attended the last COP Conference of the Parties in Sharm el Sheikh in November, and we didn't manage there to get anything in the declaration about limiting oil and gas production. So so far the UN has not been able to produce a policy according to what their own scientists is recommending. And the thing is that we need to, if we are going to stop on 1.5 degrees, we need to triple or quadruple the production of renewable energy by 2030 in a few years. And as of now, it doesn't look like we managed to do that. But if we had done it earlier and listened to the scientists, we could also have avoided the energy crisis we have in Europe now due to the war that we just listened to the president of Ukraine before this interview. So we need to take political action to limit production of oil and gas. If we don't do that, we go for sure in a very, very dangerous direction, not the least for my grandchildren and all their generation. It is very, very serious. So back to where you started, what the Secretary General is reminding us on is super important.
Right, right. You can never hear that warning enough. And thanks for bringing it to us as well. Svein Tveitdal, good to have you.